Mr. C.P. Narayana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I start with supporting the bill which permits 2 central universities in the state of Bihar. I don't want to go into details, but only one word of caution I have to mention here, that here territorial jurisdiction is mentioned in the bill. Usually, central universities, which are teaching universities, they are not given this territorial jurisdiction. I do not know why it is done like that. Maybe because of the peculiar situation in Bihar, that may be necessary. But the central universities should be teaching universities, not affiliating universities. It is with affiliating universities that the territorial jurisdiction is usually mentioned. Now, we have got 45 central universities. Of these, which are the ones which were started during the last 10 years, as mentioned by Honorable Jairam Ramesh, is we can very easily find those universities which have not got the minimum infrastructure, minimum number of teachers, say 10%, 20%, 30% teachers, and many of these teachers are not given UGC salaries. Even if they are not fully qualified, they are considered to be temporary teachers. This has to be put an end to. I request the minister that as far as possible within 6 months, or definitely before the next academic year begins, all the teaching posts should be filled. You have to see that. Otherwise, there is no meaning in calling them central universities. You can call them teaching shops, with which we are very familiar. Next point I have to mention is that, see, among these universities, there are authorities, including vice chancellors, who are, at least some of whom are highly arbitrary, dictatorial, vindictive. This has to be put an end to. I am pointing out one example of the vice chancellor of Delhi University, who has been flouting an act of parliament. See, there is an act of parliament which controls that university. He has been consistent in flouting it. This should not be continued. I do not know what ways you can find, but I will request the government and the minister concerned that they have to see that this thing does not continue in the university, because a university is a center of learning. A university is, under our democratic setup, it is a place where all things are handled in a democratic manner with students and teachers. Now, in Delhi University, that is not being done for so many months or 1 or 2 years. This has to be put an end to. Another instance I have to mention is the instance of the Pondicherry Central University. Last week, the Madras High Court has given a judgment regarding the appeal of 2 girl students there. Last year, they had complained to the university authorities of sexual harassment. Now, what that university authorities, which is headed by a woman vice chancellor, what they did was, they took action against these 2 girls for having complained against a male student who had behaved in a very bad manner towards them. They had given sexual harassment, but it was interpreted in a different manner. I don't want to go into details. I will request the minister and the HRD department to go through that judgment. It is a well-written judgment. I got a copy of it last night. I think it should be made a model as far as the universities and other institutions concerned regarding how the issue of sexual harassment has to be handled. And in this sequel, I would say, regarding these 45 universities, I don't want to mention all of them that way. You have to see that the vice chancellors and the powers that be in the universities, they are academically highly qualified. They are not vindictive. They are not arbitrary. They are magnanimous towards students and teachers. And they are people living in a democratic setup. Unfortunately, I have to say that many of them are geniuses, but they forget that they are living in a democratic country. And in a democratic country, you have to follow democratic norms and democratic laws. Many of these people are flouting. So you have to see that in selecting vice chancellors and other authorities, clear norms should be there in which one consideration should be that they observe democratic norms. Now, one more thing. See, in many states, in India as a whole, more than 60% of the higher education institutions are in the private sector. And about 54% of students are in these institutions. Now, the teachers working in these universities, in these institutions, they are paid a paltry sum. In our state, Kerala state, in many of these institutions, whether it is the professional or other sectors, maximum salary that is given is 10,000 to 15,000. I request the HRD department and the minister to consider this issue and find a solution to this.
Thank you.
With these words, I thank you.
Thank you very much.